If you clicked on this video, you've probably been looking into music marketing for a while and you've seen a lot of concepts and you've watched a lot of other people's videos and nothing's quite worked yet, and that's totally fine. I've worked with a lot of artists who have been in this position, and I get it. There's so much information out there and it's so hard to keep track of what actually is moving the needle forward. So that's exactly what this video is going to cover. This is for you if you're under 100,000 monthly listeners. If you're above that, I'm sure you're still going to find some useful things, so welcome. If you'd like, you can literally just screenshot what I've got here and you could just try to figure it out on your own. Otherwise, we're gonna go in depth about each one of these things and pretty much everything that you need to know that actually matters under 100,000 monthly listeners. These can be the only things that you do and you will get over that 100,000 monthly listener mark, assuming that the music is good enough. So step one, obviously you need to be recording music. A lot of people get into this marketing side and they forget that they need to actually spend a lot of time on their craft. But the music and the actual recording process is the most important part. It is the heart of the whole machine. And if you don't continue to spend time recording music, even when you're already good at making music, you're gonna get rusty and you don't wanna do that. So make sure this is always something that you're doing. I would highly recommend getting a home studio instead of paying for studio time at random places, because it's going to allow you to record music more. It's going to allow you to get better because you're not subjected to a time limit, and you're gonna build a good foundation of learning skills that really help you later down the line. Next, you need to create a foundational visual identity as well as branding. I haven't made a video on that just yet, but I am going to in the near future, and I'm sure it's gonna help you out a lot with this step. But for now, I'll break it down to you in its most simple form. So having a good visual identity means that you're actually able to cut through. You're able to make a piece of content, and before anybody sees what you have to say or hears your song or anything like that, they're already hooked a little bit because you look different than everybody else, right? If you look like some average Joe, then you're not gonna stick out. If you look at somebody like The Weeknd, you can automatically tell when it's him. He's wearing this iconic red jacket, he's got these glasses, and ultimately people can dress up as The Weeknd for Halloween. See, look, this is literally just off a Google search. You can see all these people who have dressed up as The Weeknd, and it's really easy to tell who they are because he's built such a strong visual identity. So the easiest way to tell if your visual identity works is if somebody can dress up as you for Halloween. Now, you don't have to get too crazy about it. You don't have to know too much about fashion. Just pick a general style and really try to stick to it. Figure out what one or two things you can wear all the time or that you can do that looks a little bit different immediately on camera. And then you're gonna work on your branding. I like to think of branding as separated into artist eras. Think about Billie Eilish, how she went through her different hair phases. She's been through different phases depending on what album she's rolling out and what era she is in as an artist. And I say this not because you need to prepare for eras right now, but just so that you put less pressure on yourself and you don't think of it as this end all be all, I have to choose the final things, right? At this level as an artist, this is personal branding and not really business branding, which makes life a lot easier because personal branding is literally you just being yourself and you consistently showing the different things that you're inspired by and having one consistent look, right? So figure out what that consistent look is gonna be. Once you have all that down, you wanna find a simple and repeatable content format. This is one that Alex Warren does a lot, as well as so many other people doing like basic reaction videos. These are all ideally really, really simple iPhone videos that just get the job done. They show your music, they show your personality. I have a ton of content on how to make good content, both on my Instagram and here on YouTube. So feel free to browse around to get a little bit more in depth with that. But pretty much just figure out one thing that you can continuously do over and over and over again, and it's not gonna take you a lot of time. Like, you should literally be able to make 5 of these videos in 30 minutes to an hour. If you're not very good at CapCut yet, I highly recommend learning it and getting very familiar with it, because it's always gonna be a tool. As long as content is king, CapCut is always going to be huge, as well as any kind of mobile editing. You wanna make sure that your text hooks and your captions and all that are really simple. I literally always use the basic font unless it's some specific stylized thing. But when I'm doing iPhone videos, I try to keep it as simple as possible. And it's not because you're stripping away your identity or it's not like preventing you from having good branding or whatever. This is literally just because it's very familiar to people who watch it. So when you use a basic text caption like this, people have seen it a million times, so you don't have to go over the barrier of them trying to figure out what it says. They know what it says, they're reading it, they're getting straight to the point, it feels familiar, and it's gonna be easier to get more views like that. So find your simple, repeatable content format, and then during that time, find a more complex and more thought out content format. Now, this could be something where you're paying a videographer. It could be something where you're trying to do skits or something that's a little bit more advanced on the editing side. Ideally, this content should take you a while to create. It shouldn't be super easy. And this is to keep you sharp as well as to put out some high quality stuff as well. I think too much of this is bad, and I think too much of this is bad. And only doing one or the other is very bad. Because if you're only doing the more complex content, your output's gonna be a lot less. If you're doing the more simple content, then you're not gonna have as much of a pull into your brand, and you're not really going to give yourself the opportunity to do something very unique. Now, these videos are not always going to do the best. Sometimes, most times, in fact, these simple videos are going to outperform these complex videos until you figure out the format that works really, really well for you. But this is why I challenge you to make something a little bit more complex once in a while, ideally like once a week, so that you can keep yourself sharp, like I said, and you can continue to build up and learn different things when it comes to the editing, when it comes to figuring out a cool concept, when it comes to acting, like all of these things that really help you out. Because think about it, you're under 100,000 monthly listeners right now. You don't need to know a lot about stage presence. You don't need to know a lot about PR and media and acting and stuff like this. But if you start training these skills now, think about when you have to have your first TV appearance. This is going to help a lot. Think about if you do a lot of content where you're talking to the camera, think about how much easier it's going to be when you get on your first radio show. How awkward would it be if you've never done anything like this and now you're on a stage in front of a bunch of people and you don't know what to do, right? So this is a very helpful thing, not just for having good content, but for your whole artist career is a foundational skill. After you figure that out, you wanna organize your releases and drop music consistently. I really, really recommend just figuring out a digital calendar that works really well for you. I like Google Calendar. I think that's probably the best, but you can use Notion, Apple Calendar. You could do it in a journal if you want, but you pretty much need to organize all your releases in a way that you can actually remember when everything's coming out. You have set, consistent release dates. Ideally, you're dropping music at least once a month. Literally, all you have to do is consistently drop the music. This is what's going to help you the most with your Spotify algorithm. This is going to help train your fans to know when your songs are coming out, and it's going to give you a pretty dedicated schedule that you can follow. I'm not personally the most organized person in the world, but when I have deadlines, it makes me a little bit more organized because I know that there's things that I need to get done. So if you're dropping on the 30th of the month, you start the rollout on the 1st of the month, you can figure out all the steps that you need to do and break it down on a week-by-week process. Like, okay, when am I getting the cover art done? When am I gonna have the music video done if I'm doing a music video? How many pieces of content am I gonna make? Which, by the way, should be 20 to 30 pieces per release, which is why we have this simple content format that we can follow. And really just try to stay organized with it. This is going to be a huge help, especially when you eventually find a manager and start building up with a team. These are gonna be things that are really important that you're good at and you at least are familiar with and understand. So again, you could be consistent and you could be on top of your releases. If you don't know how to roll out a song, that's totally fine. I actually have a video you can watch on that. It's called the 30-day rollout plan. I'll link it in the description so you can see it. And then moving on from that, we are going to try one creative marketing tactic every time we drop a song, right? So this is actually a picture from my friend David Sebastian. He has done so many cool creative campaigns. He's just an incredibly creative person. And this is something he did for an album release. So he had this unique outfit on. He had some homies that were helping act and be a part of this whole thing. They actually got this box truck and were driving it around Hollywood in LA, playing the music, and there was like a huge crowd behind it, and it was really cool. And this isn't something you just like watch a YouTube video on and then it's like, oh, okay, now I know what to do. Like, this is where you have to genuinely be creative. Like, think about your music, think about what you're putting out, and try to figure out at least one thing, be it small or be it a very complex thing, that you can try every time you drop a song. And then once you figure out something that really sticks or that you really like and you want to build on it, then you can continue to do that for every releases. Like, let's say this campaign was super successful. Every release from then on out, he could do some kind of promo like this. And once again, this is something that keeps you sharp. You see a pattern? With the recording music, you're staying sharp, you're being consistent. Having a simple content format keeps you sharp with the basic content and keeps you in the loop of what's trending in real life in real time. Doing the more complex content is going to keep you sharp with your video skills and your talking skills and your acting skills. So with that in mind, like I said, try one new thing every time you release music. I actually am not sure where it is right now, but just recently, this artist, Annika Rose, sent me a newspaper for her single release, and that's something that she started doing, and it's just like something random that she started doing that ended up working out really well, and people really fuck with it, and she started doing shoots around it, and it became this whole thing just off of the idea of like, hey, I have a new song coming out. What if instead of emailing people, I literally send them a newspaper with the release and a bunch of info about me and a bunch of cool stuff to read? How fucking awesome is that? And that's something you can't just learn from watching a reel or watching a YouTube video. Get creative. And then next, you need to spend time, real time, learning and consuming content that helps you learn more about the industry, kind of like this video right now. You're doing a great job already. This is going to help you pay attention to what's actually working right now, because things change. 2023 to 2026 has been a much different marketing game than 2020 to 2023. Even in the last couple months, there's a lot of random trends that pop up. There's random things that start working for people. And it's your job as an artist and as the CEO of your business, because yes, if you're trying to make this a career, it is a real business. You have to stay on top of what's actually working, what actually matters, and what's culturally relevant right now, especially within your community and within the people that you're speaking to the most. And then finally, the last step, involve yourself in a community to bounce ideas off of. This is crucial. Community is historically one of the most impactful and important things that a human being can literally have. You need like-minded people. You need people that are able to help you be held accountable, and you can help them be held accountable. Because when you're able to do that, you're not working off the strength of one, but you're working off the strength of many, which is how the best businesses thrive. You're not trying to be some mom and pop shop that has a couple of viewers for the next 10 years and then you fade away into non-existence, right? You want to build a crazy strong foundation. You want to build up with a bunch of other artists and producers and creatives around you so that you can all come up together. And if you don't have a community, I actually have my own artist development community that is extremely helpful. We go very, very in-depth to all of these different topics. And it's a group of a bunch of artists who I've handpicked to be in the community that I think are really helpful to be around. So not only are you joining a community where you learn in-depth process about visual identity and content and branding and all of these things, but you're also going to be surrounded by a bunch of like-minded artists who are all learning in the same way. They're focusing on what's important, and most importantly, everybody's building up together so that you're able to hold yourself accountable and give yourself the best chance of success possible. And you're going to be helping out some other people too. If this is something you're interested in, the only way you can actually get in is by DMing me on Instagram. It is very, very, very limited, and I don't mean like 100 slots or anything like that. Like I literally only let a couple people in every month because I want to keep it very small and concise and helpful to the people who I think it's actually going to help the most, because I'm not in the business of helping people that don't want to be helped. To recap, the 8 things that really truly matter as an artist under 100K monthlies is record music consistently, create a foundation of visual identity and branding, find a simple, repeatable content format, find a complex, more thought out content format, organize your releases to drop music consistently, try at least one new creative marketing idea every time you put out a new song until something sticks, spend time learning and consuming content that helps you learn more about the industry, and finally, involve yourself in a community. Now, once you are in the habit of doing all of these things, it's just so important that you stay consistent. I've talked to a lot of people in the industry about what their opinion is on the most important thing for artist development, and I'm talking like high up execs, and every single person that I've ever talked to, literally 100%, said that consistency is the #1 most important thing. So these are not things that you do one time and then you're good. These are all things that you should be building a schedule around, even if you have to separate it by days of the week, even if you have to separate it by like times of day, whatever works best for you, do that. Find the time, because it is there. When I became a full-time musician back in 2020, I was in the military and I was working 80 hours a week. If I can do it while I'm working 80 hours a week and build all the things that I built, you definitely can become a full-time artist. If you're an artist that's genuinely serious about becoming full-time and doing all the things that you can to get yourself to the highest place possible, make sure you subscribe, make sure you like the video, turn on the notifications if you want to continue to see more of these videos that are going to be extremely helpful for you, and I will see you next time.